Hi guys, and welcome to a new Guild Wars 2 video. So a week ago on Tuesday, which is obviously exactly a week ago of this video I would imagine, there was a huge patch with Living World Season 3 launching. It was a pretty meaty patch, so there's plenty to talk about. Unfortunately, of course, it was a week ago, and basically I took the time to play the patch through myself and just enjoy all the new content and things that were added, so I'd have something relevant to talk about basically. So the video will be relatively spoiler free. I won't go into any story spoilers, however I will be brushing up on some other kind of maybe spoilerish things, so take that as your warning. Yeah, like I said, no story spoilers, but I will be going through some of the stuff on the map, etc, etc. So of course the biggest thing that was added was the actual Living World stuff itself. So there are 6 new story instances spanning Holbrook, Ratanovus and Bloodstone Fen, which is the new map that's been added just north of Verdant Brink in Maguma Jungle, you know, one of the Heart of Thorns maps. So obviously you need Heart of Thorns to be able to play this. Story events continue after Heart of Thorns and the death of Mordramoth. However, it's a few days after the raid, I believe, which is again just after Mordramoth dies, but not everybody has access to the raid, so that has to be all tied in. And it's the first time in a long time that the timelines for the game and for real life have been kind of messed up. So, you know, you would say something happened in this particular month of real world, and it also happened within the game. So all of the events that have happened during Guild Wars 2 have been since the launch of the game, if that makes any sense. Well, I suppose that the 10 years between Guild Wars 1 and Guild Wars 2, that then is become like 250 years. So it doesn't really make sense there either, but yeah, something to consider. However, the story itself has very few cringe moments compared to, say, the aneurysm that is the personal story, or even to some extent the Heart of Thorns story. Season 2 wasn't too bad, but you know, whatever. That's a discussion for another day. So yeah, the pacing I thought was much better. It's a little bit wonky here and there in the second and the sixth instance, because it kind of jumps a little bit or just doesn't kind of sit right. Yeah, it's, you'll know the parts that I'm on about, the regard Kanak when he turns up. Well, I just thought the pacing there was a bit off. But you know, there's high amounts of polish within those instances, you know, down to little things like you can see little golems cleaning up on the floors after, you know, certain items get dropped, and you can eavesdrop on other conversations. It's brilliant, it's good, it's really good. The combat side of things is very face roll until you get to the later White Mantle stages. Again, sorry, this might be a little bit spoilerish, but yeah, they could be a little bit tricky to solo because they've added a bunch more Bloodstone mechanics, and they will become more apparent later when I actually talk about the map itself. So yeah, you've been forewarned. It took me a couple of tries to do it, but you know, I might have just been a bit stupid at the time. Probably me just being stupid. So as a side note, I still think that it's a little bit of a problem that people can't skip dialogue. Now, yes, that would be heretical to suggest to the dev, because at the end of the day, there isn't much story going into the game as it is, and the ability to skip it is not a good thing. But there are some people who don't enjoy those sorts of things. You know, a couple of my friends just play for the gameplay, and you know what, that's totally fine. But yeah, you still can't skip stuff, so sucks to be you if you don't want to listen to them ramble on for like a million years. Alright, so as I've just said, there has been a new map added, which is the Bloodstone Fen. It's north of Verdant Brink, and it's situated just underneath where the raid ends, because of course if you did the raid, which I've only ventured in a couple of times and not got very far, you'll find that you don't actually reach the Bloodstone. Now there's a really cool cinematic that happens, and in order to get to this map you have to complete the first 2 instances of the Living World Season 3. So if you haven't done that yet, go and do it, and then you can get access to this new map. Trust me, you're gonna love it. So the map itself is very small, but it's just absolutely crazy in terms of verticality. What do I mean by that? Well, I mean the footprint on the world map is small, but you can fall for like 7 calendar years and not hit the floor. It's absolutely insane, and because of this, the devs just went absolutely ham on flying mechanics. So you will find in the map that there are just ley lines, updrafts, and bouncing mushrooms all over the place, and I mean literally all over the place. You gain access to a new flying skill bar for aerial combat, fuck yeah, unlocked with a new map currency, which is Unbound Magic. Now you get Unbound Magic from loads of places. You can get it by killing mobs, collecting the purple floaty things in the sky, completing events. You can also get it from all of the leyline anomaly maps events around Tyria, so that's also something to consider. It also costs you bloodstone dust, which is nice. We've got another sink for that. I've actually found myself quite low on bloodstone dust recently, but you know, maybe that's just me. So you can burn through that. That's really nice. Couple of pretty cool achievements where you fly along and then you've got the 5th skill to kind of create your own ley line, and you zoom forward. It's the closest you'll ever get to flying, but if you cross another ley line, you get insta killed. It's pretty cool. So there's no map meta for Bloodstone Fen, unlike all of the other Heart of Thorns maps, which is kind of nice because it reverts back to the more classic style of maps. However, there are a hell of a lot more events going on and event chains which are really good. It's mainly centered around 3 factions, which is the Ghosts, the White Mantle, and doing rifts, which display stuff. Very similar to like the Steam Ogres and the Steam Creatures near like the Thormanova reactor and all that kind of stuff. There have been new items that you can farm, which are unstable hide, unstable chunks of metal, and then unstable cloth garments. These are really nice because there's a chance to get lower tier items which are more expensive, so it kind of means that you don't have to spend all of your time farming bags of gear, etc., to make a lot of money. You can still make a fair bit of money in this map if you have a lot of people with you in a big Zerg and you are murderating everything, so something to consider. Along with this, there's a new node that you can farm called the Bloodstone Rubies, and well, they're Bloodstone crystals, but you have a chance to get Bloodstone Rubies, and they are the trophy item, which are like the secondary currency within the map, and you can use these. They're really expensive and really rare, by the way. Yeah, you can use these to unlock ascended rings, an amulet, and a backpack. Very, very nice. Currently, there's no way of getting an ascended backpack without using a lot of crafting materials or grinding for it, like hard. So something to consider, and also something I am going for at the moment because I really, really need more ascended back pieces at the moment. And of course, they've added more dailies to the rotation. Well, it's actually a separate rotation just for this map, which is kind of nice, but at the same time kind of a pain in the ass because I can't be bothered to do the normal dailies, so I lose out all the time on extra achievement points, even though they're capped, and I suppose some people are now starting to not care about it, but again, something to consider. But you get, you know, your chest of rewards or whatever, and they've usually got bloodstone rubies or magic or whatever. It's all good. And on top of this, you can now get a new mastery track, which is been added, called counter magic. This is the thing that you use to combat all of the bloodstone magic or whatever. There's the extra mechanics that have been added within that map, and also the story instances rely on this mastery. So as soon as you unlock that, it's pretty easy. I think it's only 1 mastery point as well, which is not too bad, and I think there's 2 or 3, and then you get all the ones from the instances. So really simple, worth getting. Well, it's not really. I hardly use it, but it's good. Anyway, nice to see that we've got an extra mastery. It's just a shame that they didn't add the flying skills, which are so good and just absolutely wreck everything. It's a shame that they weren't a mastery. But at the same time, I suppose if you could use those skills outside of Bloodstone Fen, it might be a little bit OP. Just saying. So another thing is they added a new vendor where you can collect all your unbound magic and collect all of your bloodstone rubies, and then you can spend them at one of the vendors, and you can get a bunch of minis. It's quite nice that you can get a 30% extra experience boost, so if you're still trying to grind out your masteries, even though they are super easy to get now comparative to say launch, you can do that. It's a shame the map itself isn't scaled like Sison's Cove. If they'd done that, that would have been absolutely perfect, because all you need to do is get one character to 80, get all your gliding skills and your bouncing mushrooms, and then you could literally just like grind with an extra 30% experience plus your boosters plus all your gear, etc, etc, and it would have been so good. But who knows, who cares. It's kind of a shame, but whatever. There's also a crystal node, the bloodstone crystal node that is, that you can unlock for your home instance, so that's always nice. I'm always interested in getting more stuff for my home instance, because otherwise it's just totally useless part of the game and who really cares about it. But this is nice, so it's a reason to go back. A really cool kind of crash bash style arena at the end. Yeah, I don't know what's going on there. Hopefully they will up their Fractal Dungeon input, because it's been pretty shit since forever. So here come the quality of life changes. Oh yeah, now this is where it gets pretty good. So to start this one off, health percentages. Now you can check this option in your options menu, and I just super recommend doing it. It is so nice being able to say, this dude is now at 70% health. You know, he's now at 50% health. This is when I'm going to start getting, you know, all of my build procs and all of those kinds of things. You know, it means that when you're in raids and you're down to 10% and you wipe or whatever, and you're like, ah, shit, but then in the next time it's down to 9%, you're like, oh yeah, we did 1% better. Because before you had that graphic, which yes, looked nice, but was also stupid as fuck, and you couldn't tell what was going on or how far you were doing. And yeah, so that's there, and we can now kind of see DPS ish. You know, if you're in the raid and you really, you know, if you're in the raid DPS testing facility or whatever the fuck it's called, fucking James Bond's underground car park and queues there, like, oh, what's your DPS, mate? And you're like, fucking max deeps, yeah, big dick damage mode. And if you're there, you can now see how much damage you're doing, and it's really good. So yeah, kudos, ain't it, for that one. The thing that probably is the best to me. Now, if you're watching this video, you've probably been farming silver waste like there's no tomorrow. You've probably been digging up them bandit chests till the cows come home. And that means you've done a lot of salvaging in your time. And I've lost many, many hours of my life just salvaging things. No more. No more. You can now right-click salvage kits, and everything in your inventory that you specify will then get salvaged down. The UI for it is pretty good. It's a shame that they've missed out a couple of options regarding whether you just want to salvage weapons and armor and not items. So for example, if you have any like torn garments, or you have metal chunks, or, you know, salvage hides, those will also get mulched down. So if you want to sell them on the trading post, you kind of have to do that every time that you get one, which is marginally annoying, but aside from that, it's so good. It's so good. Again, with the right clicking, you can also right click to change your weapon skills now, which is very similar to other games, but to be honest, who cares? I mean, if you're right clicking your skills, you probably didn't know what you're doing anyway. Another thing that was changed, recipes are account wide, which sucks for me because I bought like, I don't know, 5 ascended berserker things, I don't know, something like that. 3, might just be 3 ascended stuff, so I lost a lot of gold and laurels. But whatever, it's now account wide. So for those collectors out there, it means that you can quite easily collect all of the recipes, and that's another thing you can collect and just hoard and probably never use, but it's nice to know that you've got them all. Is fantastic. Also means that all the recipes that you pick up in the overworld, you now don't have to sell because you're not on the right character, and you have to put it in your bank and then pick it up with another character and then learn that because they're the right profession, and then it sucks. You can now just do it from any character and it just gets account bound. Yes, yes. Fucking sinister amulets and trinket fucking things. Fuck you. So along with the crafting thing, there's now a search bar in the materials bank. It's about fucking time they added this. Not that it particularly makes much difference, but it's still really nice that they actually, you know, bothered to put a search bar. There should be a search bar everywhere, like there is in the bags. I mean, I don't understand why they didn't put 2 and 2 together. Where do you go through the most? Your bag. Where do you go through the most when you're trying to craft stuff? Your bank. Search bar in your bag, not a search bar in the bank. What is going on? Who knows? But now that is a thing, so now you can search for things in your bank. Kudos ANET for that. So another thing, which is kind of exciting, I'm not really too sure. I mean, to me this is really good, but I've already had kind of ideas going through my mind, but new emotes have been added. This seems like a really small and really stupid thing, and to be honest, it is a really small and a really stupid thing. However, it opens the floodgates to all of the content creators out there. And what do I mean by that? Well, if you ever played World of Warcraft in your life, which you might have been one of the, 20 million people that have probably played the game over the course of the past 10, 12 years, well, you may remember that stupid little gnome going, "We're going to Molten Core." Yeah, imagine that guy, but in Guild Wars. Except it's going to be a little bloody Asura going, "We're going to the Molten facility." And it's going to be good because you can type in /crosszones, /sad, /talk, and /thanks, and /upset, or facepalm, depending on what you want to put it as. But this basically allows machinima guys to do their thing. They now don't have to try and kind of ham it with really bizarre ways of making their characters talk or whatever, going to really specific instances and doing just dumb shit. So they can now do that, have conversations. The RP community are going to love this, which is also quite nice because there are quite a few just hanging around in Divinity's Reach, and now they can do their thing. Always good in my books. Again, coming from World of Warcraft, that was a nice thing to be able to do. Got you immersed. Inject the immersion into my veins. Oh, another big thing that they've changed, the skills have been made to activate as frequently as possible when using action cam. Now, if you weren't aware, when you had quickness and you're running, say, a staff on an elementalist or something, and you're using action cam, basically when you held down the left mouse button to use your auto attack, it only activated at its standard cast time, if that makes sense. So when you had quickness, it didn't shorten that cast time, which is bad because that was obviously a DPS loss when that just made your quickness boon totally useless. However, this has been remedied. It now activates as frequently as possible, so you've now got that DPS boost and then you don't feel so bad for running action cam, because action cam is good. You can also now mute dynamic combat music. That's another option in the options, sound options menu. Personally, I don't know how much I will uncheck that option because I personally quite like the dynamic music, even though it does get rather boring and very tiring. But maybe that's just because coming from a musician standpoint, what they've done is extremely clever. By looping certain bars to coincide with different health thresholds and all of that kind of stuff. It's extremely clever, and I hold my hat off to the composers. So McLean and Lena did a fantastic job. But at the same time, it is nice to have, the beautiful soundtracks going on around, not be interrupted by stupid battle music. If only there were a way to change the battle music to something like Final Fantasy battle music, that would be amazing. To do with kind of, I suppose, raids and things like that, or fractals, as I've discussed earlier. They fixed issues with the LFG, which is now out of beta. Woo, yeah! Which is great, because they cleaned out a lot of the bugs that were in there that were really stupid. Like, for example, if you were hiding offline, or invisible, whatever it's called, basically, if you went to look for a group, it would show you the other region. So for me, being on an EU server meant that when I was hiding offline, I would see the American mega servers, which was always really confusing because I couldn't remember half the time when I was hiding offline and when I wasn't. And then I tried to enter into the North American servers, and then they were like, dude, you can't get in. I'm like, oh shit, I can't get in. And then basically I'm like, oh, I got my hopes up. I might have actually been able to do Dragon Stand for once, for example. So yeah, that's a good thing. Very happy with that. So the last thing really is the new map pings, which are really cool. There's there's technically 3 new ones. There are the default red ping, which you've always known and loved. There's the green check mark, the green location, the red decline X thing, and the yellow warning sign. So now you can coordinate your mindless zerg, which is pretty good. There's also a thing where you can also another option where you can turn off other commanders' tags if you want to, if that makes sense. So if you're in one squad and your commander's running around, you only want to see his thing so you don't get lost because you can't mouse over their name or whatever. Yeah, you can turn that off. So yeah, you'll now also only get their pings. Another thing to add is that there are 3 new hairstyles for the races. I say new, they're not new, they're just recycled ones from other races. So for example, the humans now get 3 of the Norn hairstyles and vice versa, and then the Char and Silvari share their hairstyles. I don't know which one the Asuras use. They probably use a mix of all of them, I guess. I don't know. I didn't actually check, but I know for definitely the Norn and the humans share the same ones. Don't forget that you can preview these in the Black Lion Trading Post Bank thing, headquarters, whatchamacallits, within Lion's Arch, which is, you know, slightly to the east of the bank waypoint. Probably put on the video, but yeah, there. Check it out. It's good. Last thing I want to go through on the quality of life features, it just includes guilds, which they've added guild anthems that play when your guild does something, such as missions or guild team PvP, or you plant a guild banner, etc, etc. These can be changed and unlocked through a new vendor within the guild. Again, I've not really checked the site because none of my guilds have a guild hall, so there is that. But yeah, that's how you get them. They also added monuments, which are little signposts with a 140 character limit, which is the same as Twitter if you're familiar with that. You can only have 50 in the hall at once, probably because of the amount of data that needs to be stored for them. Maybe they'll increase that. But one thing that they have increased is the decoration cap, and that's now gone from 1,000 to 2,000. So people can quit bitching about not being able to make their own little house full of, like, literally made of snowballs, and there's just like singular snowballs dotted all around the place in some sort of kind of fresh hell of winter wonderland. Yeah, so that's the thing now. Alright, so with regards to PvP, now that the season ended like ages ago, and I totally didn't do anything in that season, which makes me sad, but they've added a new map, Revenge of the Capricorn, which is unfortunately nothing like the original raid on the Capricorn, which was probably my favourite map at the launch of Guild Wars 2, purely because I was really shit at PvP, and in that map I actually seemed to be pretty good because I'd just stay underwater in that little cave and just beat the shit out of anybody that came near me, because nobody else knew how to fight underwater, and basically that was my niche, and that was what I did, and yeah, they got removed. So moral of the story, just don't PvP, I suppose. Don't learn to swim. I don't know. Could be anything. So this new map is it's very flat, relatively open, aside from like mid, I suppose, because there are technically 4 points on the map that you need to be aware of. There's obviously your close and your far, then there's like mid, which is kind of, it's like an upside down version of Spirit Watch, if that makes any sense. So the keep is kind of like on the bottom of the map, on a really tall point. basically. That's how it is. But yeah, you can see Capricorn sailing right at the very beginning, which fires cannons, which is part of the mechanics of that map. So the mechanics involve you capturing points, as it's a conquest game type. And then every 3 minutes, so it'd be 12, 9, and then 6 minutes in the match. Probably 3, but it's never got to 3 minutes left on there for me, at least when I've been playing it. A bell will toll, and right in the very middle of the map, you can... a bell won't toll. Basically, right in the middle of the map, you have to go and capture the 4th point, and whoever captures that within the time limit tolls a bell, and that fires the cannons at the Capricorn to try and sink it. Now, with each consecutive toll of the bell will give you a certain amount of points. So the first time you do it is 25. The second time in a row, so obviously consecutive, you'll get 50, and in the third consecutive capture you'll get 75 points, which is pretty huge. So this basically adds a swinging mechanic to that map. Which is why I think this game would be really good in ranked, to be honest, because it either hastens your demise or it allows good teams that have a rough start to kind of claw their way back into the game. So yeah, that's really good. I really enjoyed doing it. You can get a limited time title called the Salty Sea Dog. I'm currently working my way through that one at the moment, but again, I'm not the greatest at PvP, so it's a bit of a slog at the moment. They've also added new animations for the intros and outros of matches. Very small thing, and they're randomized unless you're in a guild team, of which it would be your guild emblem and your guild team name. But for your standard pickup groups, they will have random things that kind of fit the theme of their team. So often like Ranger Danger or the Dungeonesses, etc. They get the little emblem, and then it plays a little sound, and again, this is where the guild emblem, or guild anthem I should say, comes into play. That gets played then. You could also join groups with people straight from your team inside the map, which you couldn't do before, which again is a very nice quality of life feature that they've added. It means that you can actually make friends and be less salty in what could potentially be one of the most toxic parts of the community in Guild Wars 2. Not that it's a particularly toxic community anyway, it's known for having a very good reputation, but PvP tends to bring out the worst in people. Yeah, and there's another fix that, well, I say a fix, you can't really fix the community, but what I actually meant to say was there has been an addition to basically you can queue outside the Heart of the Mists. Now that is amazing. I'm pretty sure you used to be able to do it right around launch, but they removed it because they didn't want the Heart of the Mist to seem really empty, because they were really pushing for their esports thing that never really took off. But yeah, like you can now queue for PvP inside PvE. Yes, why is it taking so long for this to be re-added? Anyway, there are a few stipulations, like you can't change maps, or you have to re-queue because of loading screens, etc, which is fine. So yeah, you can now get on with your life and continue to actually play the game in this short space of time, because you might be waiting for, the ranked matches they've added outside of seasons. Of course, no progression or anything for your legendary backpack unless it's in the season, but you can do that. So yeah, you queue outside Heart of the Mists. It does mean that you cannot talk smack and trade builds with other people, but it means that you can, like I said, get on with your life. They've also added the Living World reward track as well, so you can get your Bloodstones, your Bloodstone Crown, your Unbound Magic, your Bloodstone Dust, all of that stuff. Very nice. Means you don't actually have to do the Living Worlds map. You don't have to go to Bloodstone Fen if you don't want to, because you prefer to show everybody up and be like #1 thief in the world 2016, etc. So yeah, that's quite nice. They've also added new amulets, which are the Seeker and Diviner stat sets, a new rune of the Scrapper, and they've reworked the Geomancy, Hydromancy and Air Sigils, which is kind of interesting, but I didn't really use any of those, as far as I remember anyway. Woo! So this video is already really goddamn long, and I've been sat here trying to do this for what feels like forever, and I'm not even halfway through making it. So let's get on to the last section of the video, and that is to do with World v World. This is going to be quite short, unfortunately, as they tend to patch World v World as soon as they make the updates, which also seem to be never, but yeah, they come in drips and drabs, so yeah. There's not really much to say aside from they've added the new reward track like they have in PvP, which is to do with Living World Season 3 rewards. Again, very nice. I did try and test out farming some of those rewards myself in Edge of the Mists, but it's sort of roughly the same amount of time. Unfortunately, there's no fast track through it, which is a pain, but whatever. It might be quite nice to just kind of break up what you're doing and get your extra bloodstone rubies, etc. They've added war score for capturing objectives, and they now have a fixed points limits, which is like 2, 4, 3, 6, those kinds of things, so you can solo stuff and still get stuff. Whatever. The range on siege golem skills has been increased, so they might actually be viable now. You know, like the punchy fists that you can have, like they're now 1200 range, which is pretty crazy, to be honest. Yeah, I think only the grenade kit is like 1200 range, maybe the longbow as well. Yeah, 1200 range is pretty goddamn far, so yeah, they might be quite fun to play now. Siege weapons, now this is probably the best part of the World v World update, is that siege weapons can now be crit and affected by condies, so nobody's Trevor's safe now, trust me. So again, if you're playing a condi spec within World v World, you're not going to be completely fucking useless when it comes to taking down siege weapons. And again, a really nice addition. They've re-enabled some of the toys, so as you can see, I can now use my electromagnetic ascender in the Zerg and be totally useless, as I love to be. Fuck yeah. Alright, so that's going to be it for this video. Thanks very much for watching. Don't forget to comment, rate and subscribe. Let me know how you think the patch has been going recently. I mean, there's been plenty of hot fixes and all that kind of stuff. What was your favourite part about the patch? What have you been doing? Have you been playing the story over and over? Have you been smacking noobs and talking smack and all the other kind of things in PvP and World v World? Or have you just been ignoring it and playing Fractals like I have, even though they've added the Chaos Isles? But you know, let me know. So thanks very much for watching, and I will see you soon in the next Guild Wars 2 video, which should be a lot sooner than this one was to the last. Yeah. Have a good evening. I'll catch you again.